Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, May 14, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to at least 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We get as many likes as possible and YouTube actually pushes out the video to more weather lovers like you guys. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends, your relatives, your church brethren, whoever it may be, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Leave a comment down below letting me know whether that's been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at this tweet from Ben Noel. He is actually a meteorologist at the National Institute for Water and Atmospheric Research in New Zealand, and from time to time he makes posts about the Atlantic hurricane season that are very much accurate. I remember he made posts way out in early 2020 about what the 2020 season would have been like, and they actually verified. Now he just made a post a couple days ago that was on May 10 highlighting the UK Met and the ECMWF super blend. He states here, the super blend for these supercomputer models has arrived, and with it a prediction for very active conditions in the Atlantic basin during the hurricane season ahead. A developing La Nina looks likely to suppress tropical activity in the eastern and central Pacific. And he highlighted the fact that in the map right here, we're going to be receiving way above normal rainfall. We can see it all even better on the key on the bottom right here. The greens representing even wetter conditions and the browns representing drier conditions. And we can see the drier conditions where we have the eastern to the central Pacific where that La Nina is expected. And we also see the greens that represent way above normal rainfall. Even wetter conditions stretching all the way from Africa across the main development region into the Caribbean. Jamaica is just right here, so we're definitely smack dab in the middle of whatever is expected for this time period, August through to October 2024. So it's quite interesting that he's making such a post, something similar to what was made in early 2020, and we remember how wet that season was with the amount of hurricanes that plagued the Caribbean. Hopefully we don't get hit by any hurricanes, just some good rainfall to put some kind of a dent in the drought that some areas are currently experiencing. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that the entire Atlantic basin is still being dominated by that ridge of high pressure, well, multiple ridges of high pressure, one right here to the north of Hispaniola to the east of Florida, and another right here to the northwest of Africa. Excuse me. And we know these ridges of high pressure are responsible for sending all of those easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. We can also see a broken red line right here associated with a trough to the north of the northeastern Caribbean, and we can also see this blue spike line right here associated with the tail end of a cold front that's stretching all the way from the northern section of North Atlantic all the way down to the north of Puerto Rico. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can actually see the clouds associated with the trough, not to mention the clouds associated with the cold front right there. But we're not getting in on any of that cool weather associated with the cold front at all across Jamaica. What we do see is the low level flow of those clouds pushing from east to west, especially across the central to the western Caribbean very quickly right here, associated with the easterly trade wind brought about by the ridges of high pressure. You can also see some thunderstorms firing up across sections of northwestern South America, so sections of Panama, Costa Rica, sections of Colombia getting in on the action, as usual section of Guyana, Suriname and French Guyana as well. You can also see some activity taking place across sections of the central and eastern United States as usual. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, May 14, 2024. It was stated that I would have received some warm, windy and hazy weather across sections of most of Jamaica on Tuesday, and that was definitely what took place. It was kind of forecasted on the rainfall maps that sections of some northern parishes might have received some isolated showers, but the thing is, there was some amount of disagreement with the Euro and the GFS malls, and that's what we usually look for. We look for agreement, we look for consensus, and we did not see the consensus at all. I didn't have much faith in that forecast. Remember, I believe the Euro was showing some amount of isolated rainfall, maybe across sections of Hanover and St. Mary, while the GFS was showing some rainfall across sections of Hanover, St. James, and Trelawney. A bit different, but there was definitely some amount of disagreement, so there wasn't much faith in that forecast. And what ended up happening? A post wasn't even made on our pages because nothing took place. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see the general flow across the island, the low-level patches of clouds pushing from east to west, more so from the east-southeast to the west-northwest, and we didn't have much in the way of cloud cover across the island today. Clear skies across the majority of the island, mainly partly cloudy in some spots. As it relates to the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 28 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston right here. And by about 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning, temperatures should dip down to about 23 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we're still looking at these maps, and we're seeing that this map is from the GFS showing 18Z on Wednesday. When we calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Wednesday, and we still see that the entire southwestern Atlantic is still being plagued by above normal temperatures, as we can see by the key on the right. The yellows, the oranges, even up to the reds that represent even up to 5 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, still should be plaguing a special section of Central America, sections of Florida, the Bahamas, Jamaica. Not so much in the rest, but we're definitely getting in on those above normal temperatures, maybe up at least to 4 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures at most for Jamaica's temperatures on Wednesday. And I want for you to keep in mind that the average temperatures for the month of May across Jamaica are about 89 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 89 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as about 30 degrees Celsius, or 31 degrees Celsius, sorry. So we should be receiving anywhere from, let's say, 31 to 35 at most for Jamaica's temperature on Wednesday. As it relates to the dry air map, we can see the dry air is represented by what we see on the key on the bottom. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we see Jamaica right here embedded in some amount of yellows and some orange colors that represent some amount of dry air. We're still being plagued by a lot of dry air, which explains the lack of rainfall across the Caribbean region. Hopefully we get in on some of those blues and some amount of rainfall shortly. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Wednesday, we can see that we still have the Saharan dust stretching all the way from Africa across the main Devon region, but we can also see that it is starting to dwindle. We're seeing more of those beige-ish kind of looking colors, not so darker shades of browns or anything like that. Again, we still have some slight browns that represent some amount of, slight hazy conditions. So it's not on the high end of the scale. We're not seeing those tremendous hazy skies. We're not seeing persons asthma or sinusitis being triggered tremendously. So we're indeed grateful that it's starting to dwindle across the basin. Hopefully we don't get in on this, even though we know the general flow of these high pressure ridges cause most of this dust condition to push westward. Hopefully we don't get in on any of that at all. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, we're still seeing that both the Euro and the GFS malls are showing more so in the way of blues surrounding the island that we can see by the key on the bottom right. That represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height up to at least 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because the winds are going to be averaging anywhere from about, let's say, 10 to at least 20 knots, as we can see by these green colors. And we see the general flow on both the Euro and the GFS malls more so from the east-southeast bending towards the northwest. So more of a east-southeast kind of flow across the island. We can also see that the least amount of winds are going to be across the northwestern portions of the island. so maybe it could feel a bit hotter on that side, maybe sections of Hanover, St. James. And if there was some moisture in the atmosphere, whatever would have taken place during the daytime heating hours of the day would have definitely brought some amount of rainfall across those spots. But considering that the air is so dry, definitely drier than normal conditions being experienced right now, we don't have much in the way of troughing or tropical waves or anything like that across the region. So it explains why we're getting in on that very dry weather across Jamaica recently, and this should continue into tomorrow. As we can see, both the rainfall forecast maps aren't showing much in the way of rainfall. We don't see much in the way of blues that represent rainfall. This map from the GFS and this map from the Euro are showing 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 11 a.m. Jamaica time, and that's basically how it's going to be looking from morning to evening across the island, more so in the way of white than anything else. We don't see much in the way of rainfall. The whites represent little to no rainfall, as we can see by the key on the bottom. And not only the 1 hour totals, but the accumulated precipitation total. We can see both maps not showing much in the way of rainfall at all. Keep in mind that this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected within the next 24 hours from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday. And we don't see much in the way of rainfall at all. More whites and grays than anything else that we can see by the key on the bottom right, or the key on the right, sorry. That represents anywhere from 0.01 of an inch of rainfall to at least 0.05 of an inch of rainfall. We don't see much at all. Just a little piece of St. James right there in the green. And it doesn't even make sense I highlight that, because we don't even see the consensus on the Euro model at all. Definitely more in the way of dry weather should be plaguing the Jamaica area on Wednesday. Hopefully we get some rainfall soon to make up for what we usually experience in the month of May. We usually receive up to at least 213 millimeters of rainfall during this month. That's almost at least 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 9 inches of rainfall. We've been getting rainfall, let's say, about the first couple days of May, and so far this week and over the weekend, very dry conditions, hopefully. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen next week into the other week, even into maybe early June. We might be getting an increase in rainfall, so maybe that time it might make up for all of the rainfall that we've been missing. Hopefully we get in on some of this rainfall very soon. Alright, so that is it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have a lot of activities taking place across sections of the northwestern portion of South America. And as a matter of fact, I believe the U.S. National Hurricane Center, if I'm not mistaken, actually highlighted something for the Eastern Pacific. If I can find these maps quickly. I don't seem to be able to find it at all. Alright, so the East Pac, where is it? It's right here. Yes, they actually did a code yellow recently, considering that the Pacific season is going to be starting on May 15. So they did a code yellow for a possible area of development, which has a 30% chance of formation within the next 7 days. They actually stated here, an area of low pressure is forecast to form along a trough several hundred miles to the south or southwest of the Gulf of Tehuantepec by the middle of latter portion of this week. Thereafter, some gradual development of the system is possible as the low moves slowly west to northwest, remaining south of the coast of Mexico through early next week. So they're highlighting the fact that yes, things are starting off in the Eastern Pacific. Their season actually starts in the middle of May, on May 15. So they're actually right on time. Today is the 14th of May, the 14th day of May, tomorrow is the 15th. So it's actually right on time. It's possible that they're going to be getting in on some amount of bad weather, mainly across the waters of the Eastern Pacific than anything else. And some persons might be saying, but how is it that the Eastern Pacific is active? There's going to be a La Nina. Well, the La Nina hasn't kicked in as yet. To be honest, we're still in El Nino territory, although it is diminishing as we speak and transitioning to a La Nina. And we know the atmosphere takes a while to start to feel the effects of the La Nina. So as soon as the La Nina effects kick in, we're definitely gonna be receiving, more so in the way of below average temperatures or average temperatures across the Caribbean, and in doing so, some more rainfall as well. So back to the visible satellite images, we can see the clouds associated with numerous troughs and cold fronts across sections of the central and eastern United States, bring some amount of clouds and rainfall to those areas. The rainfall that we mentioned a while ago across sections of Costa Rica, Panama, section of Colombia, not to mention section of Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana, spilling down into portions of Brazil. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean for today. By the way, this is showing the eastern US, and we're actually seeing the rainfall that we just saw on the visible satellite images. Taking a look at the northeastern Caribbean, we don't see much taking place right now at all. Even if we put these images into motion, we don't see much taking place across Puerto Rico either. As usual, the isolated afternoon rainfall across section of central and western Puerto Rico right there, but that's basically it. They're used to that. As it relates to the Leeward Islands, the other islands, we don't see much in the way of rainfall at all. Maybe some isolated pockets of rainfall across section of Guadeloupe and Dominica. As it relates to the Windward Islands, showing the Barbados radar right here, we don't see much taking place across Barbados right now, but we do see some isolated pockets of rainfall here and there, especially to the north of Barbados right there, and all of this is pushing towards the west to affect maybe sections of Martinique, maybe spilling into sections of St. Lucia. You can see sections of the Grenadine Islands getting in some amount of rainfall, and we also see some rainfall maybe spilling into sections of Tobago right here. As it relates to the wider view of Doppler radar images, we don't see much in the way of rainfall at all across majority of the basin. As a matter of fact, many of the Doppler radar images across northeastern South America are broken down, but we do see some amount of rainfall right there across sections of Colombia. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, just as stated earlier, we're still being plagued by above normal temperatures. The least above normal temperature should be plaguing the eastern to the central Caribbean, while it's the western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico that should be getting in on that way above normal temperature. Let me even use a different color. So right there, these are the areas that are going to be getting on the way above normal temperatures, anywhere from at least 2 to 3 to even 4 to even 6 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, especially across Central America. Definitely going to be feeling hot. And the thing is, they're going through a lot of wildfires at this time. There is definitely a lot of smoke. Visibility is poor. It's crazy over there. You'd expect that they're experiencing a lot of rainfall, but no, they're actually in a serious drought, just like persons in Jamaica. Not even as bad as what we're going through in Jamaica, as a matter of fact. So above normal temperature should be plaguing anywhere from the southern portion of Florida, sections of the Bahamas, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, sections of Central America, the Gulf of Mexico. Definitely gonna be getting on that way above normal temperature. As it relates to the siren dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Wednesday, we do see that the siren dust is definitely starting to dwindle across the Caribbean. We don't see that thick brown color at all. We see more so in the lighter shades, and we see breaks within that here and there. So we're indeed grateful that it's starting to dwindle across the Caribbean, but we do see that darker shade of brown stretching all the way from Africa across the Mediterranean region. And we know what usually happens: the high pressure ridge pushes all of that towards the west. Hopefully it doesn't make it as far as us again in the Caribbean at all. As it relates to the wave forecast across the Caribbean for tomorrow, both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are still showing that majority of the Caribbean should be getting in on those darker shades of blues to lighter shades of blues that represent anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height to 1.5 meter wave height, and that's because the winds, as we can see on both the Euro and the GFS maps, should be averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knot winds, maybe even gusting to 20 knots, as we can see by the key on the bottom right. And we see that, and the general direction should be from the east curving northward as we head into the western Caribbean, more so to the north across Cuba right there, heading into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's definitely curling and curving the more west it go. So easterly definitely across the eastern Caribbean, east south easterly more so across the central Caribbean, more so from the southeast across the western Caribbean. And let's get into the meat of the matter. Where are we gonna be receiving that rainfall tomorrow? We're seeing that both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus of where the rainfall is expected. And where do we see that rainfall expected? So definitely some isolated spots where we see those lighter shades of green across sections of Cuba, sections of Haiti and Dominican Republic, not to mention sections of maybe southwestern Puerto Rico. Section of the eastern Caribbean might get in on some of that, just like what we just saw on the Doppler radar images. A section of Guadeloupe, Dominica, section of Martinique, Saint Lucia, section of Grenada, and even here south of there, so French Guyana, Suriname, Guyana, section of southern and western Venezuela, Colombia, Costa Rica, Panama, coastal areas of Nicaragua, sections of northwestern Nicaragua, as well as sections of Guatemala might get in on some of the action as well. And the thing is, both the Euro and the GFS malls are showing something similar, and we know that when they're showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.